Laura had always known she was beautiful. With her striking green eyes, flowing auburn hair, and tall, elegant figure, she was the kind of woman who silenced entire rooms with her entrance. She had learned early that beauty wasn't just a blessing, it was a weapon, and Laura wielded it better than anyone. But beauty alone wasn't enough to win the life she truly wanted. Not anymore. For years, she'd watched her best friend Cindy live the life she deserved. Cindy, the sweet, naive violinist with soft, expressive brown eyes and the voice of a lamb, had somehow ended up married to Jaden. The Jaden, pro golfer, successful entrepreneur, impossibly handsome, a man with a dangerous smile, and the kind of power that made people lean in just to be near his fire. Laura remembered every moment of the plan she had woven around them like silk. It started with wine, expensive, golden, bubbling. One evening, after one of Cindy's concerts, Laura had invited Jaden for a celebratory drink while Cindy stayed back to greet fans. It was innocent, really, or at least that's what she told herself at first. Cindy doesn't understand you, Laura had whispered after their second bottle. She loves her violin more than she loves you. A lie, but one rooted in something true. Cindy had always been gentle, reserved, delicate, the kind of woman who would sacrifice her dreams for others, the kind of woman who made tea instead of arguments. Laura was the opposite. Fire, daring, a woman who didn't ask for anything. She took it. She watched Jaden's defenses crumble day by day, smile by smile. And she made sure he knew how beautiful she looked in red dresses, how her laughter sounded like the future, how she wasn't afraid to look him dead in the eyes and say what she wanted. "I want you," she had finally said one humid summer night, leaning close enough for her perfume to flood his senses. "And I don't like sharing." When Cindy failed to get pregnant, something Laura had suspected for a while, the final crack appeared. Soon after, Jaden stood over Cindy in their chic living room, his voice sharp and final. "You bring nothing to my life anymore." "And Laura?" Laura stood in the doorway, pretending to look concerned. "Maybe it's better this way, Cindy. You deserve someone who loves you properly." It was a masterpiece of betrayal, flawless in its execution. Cindy left that night with nothing but a small suitcase and the violin her late mother had given her. Laura thought she had one. When she and Jaden moved into the sprawling estate overlooking the sea, surrounded by lush vineyards and marble pillars, Laura stood on the grand balcony, sipping champagne, and whispered to herself, "I have everything now, but victories built on someone else's tears always taste different. Slightly bitter, slightly dangerous." And Laura didn't yet realize that she wasn't the predator in this story. She was the bait, the violinist in the rain. Cindy's world had shrunk to a small, dimly lit room at the edge of the city. Gone were the silk sheets and marble floors of her former life. What remained was peeling wallpaper, a creaky bed, and the faint scent of dampness in the walls. She taught violin to children whose parents often forgot to pay on time, and on weekends she performed at modest cafes and wedding receptions just to earn enough for rent and food. Some days, that meant a half loaf of stale bread and water. But she was free, and that was a feast compared to what she had escaped. Her dog, Milk, was the only constant, soft, loyal eyes following her every movement, resting his head on her knee when she sat silently for too long. Occasionally, news of her ex-husband, Jaden, and her former best friend, Laura, would flicker across TV screens or glossy magazines at the corner store. Pictures of them draped in designer clothes, smiling under the flash of paparazzi lights, sipping champagne at events. Cindy would glance at the covers. No reaction. Nothing in her face moved, not even around her eyes. People around her tried to offer words of comfort. "You're better off without them," or "Karma always comes around," but Cindy didn't respond. Their voices echoed against the walls of her quiet detachment. One evening, after teaching her last lesson, the sky broke open with rain. Cindy had no umbrella and no bus fare left, so she walked. The rain was cold, slicing sideways in the wind, soaking her thin sweater in minutes. Hair stuck to her forehead, water trailed down her neck and spine. But she kept walking, her violin case clutched tightly against her chest as though it carried the last fragile piece of herself. And then, strangely, beautifully, a smile curled at the corner of her lips. Not a laugh, not a grin for someone else's benefit. A raw, unfiltered smile. Cindy tilted her face up to the sky, letting the rain wash away the last ghost of that old life. She was free. Not because Jaden had set her free. No, he was never going to open that door, not willingly. But he had, in his selfishness, handed her the one gift she never imagined he would: release. By falling in love with someone else, he had broken the chains she never thought she could escape. It had taken betrayal to save her. And in that downpour, standing alone with milk at her heels, Cindy finally remembered who she was. Not someone's wife, not someone's possession, but Cindy. And her smile, once so carefully tucked away, now stretched wide across her rain-soaked face like a banner of defiance to the world. Across the city, Laura reclined in the luxury of a sprawling mansion. Chandeliers hung from cathedral ceilings, velvet drapes framed tall windows, and the scent of expensive perfume lingered in the hallways. She lived like a queen, her every whim attended to by an army of servants. But Laura was not a benevolent ruler. She was restless, sharp-tongued, and prone to cruel, sudden orders. One day, she'd praise the housekeeper for her diligence. The next, she'd throw a crystal vase because the sheets weren't folded just so. Most days, Jaden didn't notice. He was too busy expanding his empire, flying to other cities, shaking hands, signing contracts, building wealth. By the time he came home, it was usually late at night, and Laura barely stirred from her silk-covered bed. She didn't love him. Not really. She loved the life he provided. Designer handbags, yachts in the harbor, shopping trips on a whim, lavish dinners with friends who cared more about her wardrobe than her heart. Still, when Jaden returned, Laura would rush to the door, throwing her arms around him as if she'd been counting the hours in agony. The performance made her laugh inside. Jaden, handsome and powerful, deserved the illusion. It made things smoother, but illusions don't last. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when the mask cracked. They were seated in the sun-drenched dining room for lunch, surrounded by expensive china and crystal glasses, when Jaden suddenly dropped his spoon with a loud clang. "What the hell is this?" His voice was sharp as broken glass. Startled, the chef appeared from the kitchen, pale and trembling. "Sir," Madam asked to remove the mushrooms. "You changed my recipe?" Jaden roared, standing so suddenly his chair screeched backward across the marble floor. Without my permission, Laura blinked. In all the time she'd known him, Jaden had never raised his voice like this. Not to her. "Jaden, please. It's just mushrooms. I don't like them. Why are you?" "Shut up." His voice was ice. He stared at her like she was a stranger. The butler and chef exchanged terrified glances, retreating quickly, their footsteps soft against the expensive rug. Laura sat frozen. Something had shifted in the air, something dangerous. Later that night, Laura cautiously approached Jaden's study. Her silk robe whispered against the floor as she stepped lightly toward him. "Jaden, let's not fight over something so silly." His fist connected before she saw it coming. The pain was instant, shocking. Laura doubled over, clutching her stomach, the breath knocked clean out of her. Before she could speak, the kicking began. Cold, merciless. She didn't remember how it ended, only that it did. Eventually, the next morning, bruised and trembling, she reached for her phone, but it was gone. Taken. From that day forward, everything changed. The mansion became her cage. Her clothes, her diamonds, her expensive shoes, all meaningless in the shadow of Jaden's unpredictable rage. The bubbly, laughing Laura that once charmed every room she entered was replaced by someone cautious, small, broken. Servants walked on eggshells. No one spoke unless spoken to. And Laura, who used to command the household like a queen, learned how to move like a ghost in her own palace. The bruises faded over time, but the fear did not. The woman who once thought she could control everything now realized she had never been in control of anything at all. Cindy walked into her tiny apartment, drenched from the rain. After a hot shower, She stood in front of the mirror, water dripping from her hair, and stared at the reflection of a woman who, despite having nothing, still carried a free, fragile kind of happiness. She smiled faintly. Jaden had pursued her since their university days with unwavering sincerity. His rugged appearance, more athletic than refined, always seemed a bit foreign to her. Cindy had always dreamed of someone gentle, perhaps an artist or a quiet scholar. But Jaden, an athlete with kind eyes, never gave up. Late at night, he'd bring her ice cream when she was sick. Once, he even brought her a carefully pressed four-leaf clover from a competition overseas. He had been successful in his sports career and his post-retirement golf, where business took off as well. With his striking looks, he didn't even need models for the brand. Cindy thought she was lucky. For a while, maybe she was, but years of dating weren't enough to show her what he truly was. It began slowly after they married. Sharp words, then shouting, then his hands. His need for control over every part of her life grew suffocating, violent. Cindy, raised gently in a world of violins and soft-spoken competitions, had no idea how to fight it. Jaden had even bought her parents a small house before the wedding, earning their adoration. His threats, should she ever speak a word of his cruelty, extended to them too. You talk, you suffer, and so will they. So she acted every day, pretending, smiling for family photos, standing by his side at business events. She thought about confiding in Laura, her oldest friend, but something in Lara's eyes stopped her. Beneath her smiles was envy. Envy for Cindy's marriage, envy for Cindy's life. And then, one day, Cindy saw it with her own eyes. Laura, laughing too sweetly, too comfortably with Jaden, his hand lingering on her waist, both of them sharing glances meant only for lovers. It should have broken her. But instead, Cindy felt something unexpected. Hope. Maybe he'll choose her. Maybe I can be free. And so their affair ignited, reckless and open. Laura, now emboldened by Jaden's attention, paraded around Cindy's house like she was the rightful mistress, throwing venom in her words, mocking Cindy for not giving Jaden children. Soon enough, Cindy was left with nothing. Lara's betrayal wasn't just personal. It was cruel, strategic, final. They threw her out, penniless, humiliated. Cindy picked up her violin again. Busking on street corners, living day-to-day off the coins of strangers, was humiliating by any normal standard, but not to her. It was freedom. One crisp afternoon, as she played in a busy town square, a cello joined in. The player was a young man with quiet eyes, wearing a simple white shirt and black slacks. He didn't speak, just played. Their melodies intertwined, effortlessly. People stopped. They clapped. They threw money. When the music ended, they smiled at each other and left without exchanging names. But a week later, at the same time, in the same square, there he was again. Soon it became a ritual. Every week, the villagers gathered for this unexpected concert. The local shopkeepers even built a small canopy to shelter them from the rain. The village landlord donated a basic speaker system. Photographs of the two musicians traveled online, and curious tourists began to arrive. His name was Andrew. He owned a small book cafe in town. After weeks of listening to Cindy's violin from afar, he had finally dusted off his cello and joined her. Rainy days were reserved for quiet performances inside his cozy cafe. Soft lamplight, the smell of books and coffee, the glow of music. Nothing could have been more beautiful. Without ever needing to say it, they fell in love. Meanwhile, Lara's dream life had curdled into a nightmare. Every escape attempt failed. The loyal housekeeper watched her like a hawk. The security cameras covered every door. The glamorous life she had once flaunted on social media was now a memory. Her hair tangled, her skin pale, the weight of time pressing down on her. Even Jaden, once obsessed with her, no longer cared. He ignored her. That was almost a mercy. She had no phone, no friends, no family willing to help her. She had cut all ties in her pursuit of wealth and status. She regretted everything. The lies, the betrayal, the shallow parties where she made herself feel superior by mocking Cindy. But one day, Laura overheard something that sent adrenaline pumping through her body. The trash collection would be early that Saturday. 2 weeks worth of garbage. A way out. She prepared. She hid cash, found sneakers, feigned drunkenness the night before. When the house lights finally went out, she crept through the kitchen, out into the dark garden, and dove into the largest bin by the hedges. Filthy. Humiliating. Perfect. The truck came. The lid opened. Laura clung to the sides, hidden in the stench, her heart hammering wildly. When the truck slowed at the next stop, she leapt out, skin torn by branches, but alive. Alive. She stumbled through the darkness toward the docks. At the docks, desperate, Laura sold her luxury watch to a gang of smugglers for just enough money to buy a ferry ticket. The sky was turning pale with dawn. I'm going to make it. But then, someone grabbed her by the hair. It was Jaden. He dragged her like a predator claiming his prey, his fury radiating like heat. People nearby stared. An employee of the docks stepped forward to help, but Jaden pulled a gun from his coat. The crowd screamed. Everyone scattered. It could have ended there, with Laura dragged back in her cage, but someone lunged at Jaden's wrist. The gun fired wildly into the air. Laura ran, stumbling, barefoot, desperate. Jaden broke free, chasing after her like a beast, so wild that he didn't see the speeding truck until it was too late. The sound of screeching brakes and twisting metal filled the air. When the chaos settled, Jaden was gone. Laura fainted on the spot. Laura woke up in a hospital, thin, bruised, but alive. Jaden's funeral was a pathetic affair. His greedy relatives bickered over nothing. None of them could defend him, not with so many witnesses having seen his madness. One day, Cindy and Andrew came to visit. They stood by Lara's bedside like a picture of a life Laura could have had, but never deserved. Cindy cried, "I hated you for a long time, but I'm relieved you're alive. You betrayed me, but in doing so, you freed me." Laura could barely lift her head. Tears ran down her pale cheeks. "I'm sorry. I don't deserve forgiveness. But thank you. I'm just glad to be alive." They didn't pretend to be friends again, but there was peace between them. Then, weeks later, a lawyer visited. "It took time to find you," he said. "Mr. Jaden never updated the divorce paperwork. Legally, you're still his spouse. It was a bitter inheritance." Cindy used part of the funds to open a small music academy, just a street away from Andrew's cafe. Lessons were free for children who couldn't afford them. Their little concerts became community festivals. Children, tourists, musicians, even Cindy and Andrew's future children joined in as the years passed. Every note they played was a defiance of their past and a celebration of a life they built anew. And each day, as Cindy tucked her violin under her chin, she thought, "I walk through hell, but I play in heaven."